Have you ever noticed how, in the quiet space between TikTok scrolls and late-night self-doubt, a strange question echoes? You're surrounded by endless motivational quotes and flashy success stories. Supposedly, it's never been easier to find your purpose, but you somehow feel further from it than ever. Countless notifications, infinite feeds, everyone looks so certain online, so full of direction. Yet, beneath that glittering surface, there's a gnawing ache. Why does it feel like most of us are drifting through life, clinging to pixelated scraps of advice, but still struggling to answer? What is any of this for? It's easy to blame it on our generation's short attention span, the flood of daily distractions, or a so-called lack of grit. But that's just another empty soundbite. Just more noise in an endless storm of shallow Instagram wisdom. Underneath, real hunger grows. Not for more content or better productivity hacks, but for something deeper and more vital, a sense of actual meaning. On one side, there's comfort, the soothing algorithmic lullaby that says, don't think too hard, just keep scrolling and you'll feel better. On the other, there's discomfort, sitting with your restlessness, admitting you crave purpose that isn't prepackaged or performative. Most people cling to the first option, desperately avoiding the ache. But ask yourself, has it worked? Are you satisfied, fulfilled, transformed by the curated wisdom filling your feed? Or do you find yourself circling the same questions, hoping for answers that never come? Here's the truth. The question of meaning, once reserved for late-night philosophers or midlife crises, now haunts us every single day. We're bombarded with options, yet paralyzed. We're told purpose is a personal brand waiting to be built, but branding is not belonging. The more connected we are, the more isolated we might feel when no post or podcast can reach the place inside that actually aches. So, why do so many people feel lost, even with endless options? Because the search for meaning isn't solved by shortcuts or hashtags. It's a calling that demands more. And today, in this noisy void, that search is more crucial than ever. Let's tear through the static together and get real about what it takes to answer that call. Ready to stare into the abyss and see what stares back? Step back for just a moment. Look around our digital society. Endless podcasts dissecting finding your why, Instagram feeds littered with half-baked mantras about pursuing dreams, memes poking fun at existential dread. It's all so familiar that we almost stop noticing the message behind the noise, the real crisis hiding in plain sight. We're living through what many thinkers now call the meaning crisis. But what does that actually mean? The meaning crisis is what happens when ancient sources of direction collapse or become background noise, and we're left standing alone, assaulted by infinite options, but without a guiding thread. Imagine waking up each day in a world where almost nothing is truly expected of you. In theory, this is freedom. You can choose your beliefs, relationships, and career without constraints. In practice, it feels like drifting in a limitless ocean with no North Star, every compass spinning out thanks to the next trending TikTok or viral meme. We're overexposed to choices. Should you build a startup, accept a stable job, become a digital nomad, or drop everything for an ayahuasca retreat? We scroll past 1,000 ways to live and 1,000 versions of success every day. This smorgasbord of possibilities doesn't liberate us, it paralyzes us. Overchoice isn't just inconvenient, it quietly erodes our sense of direction, as if true meaning is just another lifestyle accessory you can rent or return. Zoom in on another phenomenon, nihilistic memes and black pill humor. They're everywhere. Dark jokes about existence being pointless, about depression as a generational badge, about how no one actually cares. Look closely and you'll see a coping mechanism. If the world's absurd, why bother believing in anything? It's cynicism dressed as wit, a modern mask for ancient despair, and it spreads. Because in a world flooded with content and cleverly packaged significance, it's easier to laugh at meaninglessness than to question where it really came from. Here's where contrast slams into reality. On one side, the comfort of ignorance, a kind of numbing, a willful scrolling past discomfort, a dopamine-soaked escape from existential questions. It's tempting to live shielded from pain, insulated by distractions and the easy narrative that life just is. After all, isn't ignorance bliss? But there's a cost, living half asleep, never truly touching the pain or the possibility that asking harder questions brings. On the other side, the pain of awareness. It's uncomfortable, maybe even terrifying, to acknowledge just how shaky the foundations of meaning have become. Our parents or grandparents might have had faith, tradition, or community as anchors, belief systems handed down unquestioned. Rituals mapped out the years, religious holidays, lifelong marriages, milestones tracked by family and town. For many, these old sources have eroded, replaced by algorithmic feeds, gig work, and perpetually shifting identities. We've inherited unprecedented freedom, but also the burden of inventing reasons to wake up in the morning, without maps, without safety nets. So here's the core challenge, the fork in the road so many never see. Are you willing to stare into this abyss instead of looking away or laughing it off? Are you brave enough to admit that meaning doesn't come pre-packaged anymore, and that, for better or worse, that responsibility rests squarely on your shoulders? Facing the abyss means feeling the vertigo of not having answers, the raw ache of uncertainty. It means rejecting the seductive comfort of self-imposed ignorance and resisting the cynicism that quietly kills off all aspiration. If you're honest, the abyss is terrifying, but it's also magnetic. Because in that honest darkness, in the moment you truly admit, I don't know why I'm here, a spark is possible. Curiosity can bloom. Questions you never dared to ask take shape, because suddenly you realize they're yours to answer, not anyone else's. It's this moment, raw, vulnerable, unfiltered, that separates passive drifting from the courageous beginning of a real search. So as we push forward, I'm asking you, are you content numbing out in comfort, or are you ready to let the pain of awareness crack something open inside you? Because the choice to confront the void isn't a curse, it's the invitation to start creating your own meaning in a world that refuses to hand it to you. This is the abyss. What you do next is where your story and your search truly begins. Let's dig deeper and see what most people do with this discomfort and why that well-worn path is designed to distract you from the answers you crave. When the ache of uncertainty becomes unbearable, most people don't confront it. They flee from it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Our society is built to help you sedate, distract, and numb yourself, not to help you face those big questions head-on. Look at the default escape routes, hours lost to social media feeds you barely remember scrolling, entire evenings swallowed by games designed for achievement hits but void of real progress, and even that relentless hustle, chasing productivity not because it matters, but just to feel busy, important, occupied. We tell ourselves these are breaks or just for fun, but really they're methods of avoidance. Each notification, every little dopamine rush, works as a small dose of anesthesia for the soul. The promise is that if you just keep busy enough, keep achieving digital victories, keep replying to messages, keep ticking boxes, you won't have to notice the growing emptiness underneath. And it works, for a while. But each time the noise fades and you're left alone with your thoughts, the old void is right there, whispering that you're not filling it. You're just covering it up. This is escapism in its purest form, a pseudo-relief. It feels safe, numbing, familiar, but like a painkiller, it never cures, it only suspends. You scroll, you binge, you grind your way through tasks, chasing an elusive satisfaction that never quite comes. Compare that to something radically different, the conscious pursuit of purpose. This is active seeking, not seeking comfort, but seeking discomfort, opening yourself up to honest questions, difficult conversations, and the uncertainty of trial and error. When you stop running from the void and deliberately walk toward it, when you ask, what actually moves me? What am I afraid to admit I care about? You shift from passivity to action. You become a participant in your own story, sculpting identity from raw material, not just adopting the status or image the world tries to hand you. It's scarier. It often hurts, but it's real. Why do so many people choose sedation over seeking? Because sedation feels safer. It asks nothing of you but your time. No risk, no exposure, no vulnerability required. On the other hand, active seeking demands everything: vulnerability, bravery, an open mind, and a willingness to be uncomfortable, rejected, or even wrong. Most never cross that threshold because society rewards surface busyness and distracts us from the quiet rebellion that real seeking requires. Escapism gives you comfort without growth. Seeking delivers discomfort, but possibility. The difference is everything: a life spent numbed or a life that matters. So which path have you been living on? Sedation or seeking? Are you content with a pseudo-life of distractions or ready to exchange cheap comfort for the kind of discomfort that forges meaning? Next, let's unravel how even our digital identities, carefully constructed and curated, shape and often distort our very understanding of what meaning could be. Scroll through any feed and you'll see it. Snapshots of accomplishment, curated authenticity, declarations of purposeful living. It's not just connection you're watching, it's performance. Online, we construct ourselves piece by piece, assembling meaning in shareable fragments. Look at my routine, my transformation, my acts of kindness, my hustle. Each post is a performance of meaning, broadcast as if the world is judging a competition for the most fulfilled life. But whose standard are we actually using? Algorithm-driven platforms reward certain signals, likes, shares, polarizing opinions, not genuine depth. What gets amplified isn't necessarily what has value, but what captures micro-moments of attention. Over time, the algorithm doesn't just guess what you want, it teaches you what to want. Your most engaging posts start to define your persona. Followers reinforce it, the dopamine hits of affirmation shape your priorities, and soon, you're optimizing for attention rather than truth. Here's where the contrast becomes sharp. On one side, performing meaning for others. This is the curated self, living to be seen, measuring worth by metrics, gaining comfort from conformity or applause. It's seductive. If the world signals approval, that must mean you're living properly, right? But on the other side is the much harder, lonelier, but infinitely more rewarding path, discovering intrinsic value. That means asking, would I do this if no one saw, if it gained nothing external? Would I still care? That kind of meaning doesn't trend, doesn't always get validated, and often feels invisible in a world governed by algorithms. Platforms want you to play a role because roles are predictable and profitable. If you're a grind influencer, a wellness enthusiast, a thought leader, you feed a category, a niche. But life isn't a niche. The unseen influence of algorithms isn't just about what comes up in your feed, but about how you unconsciously start to crave algorithmic validation more than actual alignment. You scheme your actions around what could be posted, not what needs to be lived. So, are you shaping your identity, or are you letting the algorithm sculpt it for you? Are you expressing your values or feeding a persona you only half recognize anymore? The illusion here is subtle but powerful. The sense that if you can just win enough approval, you'll arrive at purpose. But meaning found in the clicks and views of strangers will always leave you starving for more. Imagine shutting off the spotlight, refusing the applause, and engaging in actions that are meaningful, even if they're invisible. That's where freedom hides, in deciding who you are when nobody's watching and purposefully resisting the urge to let digital feedback loops write your story. Next, let's expose another hidden force, the pursuit of power, status, and metrics as substitutes for the messy journey of true purpose. Which are you really chasing, power or meaning? Picture this, you're racing up the invisible ladder, collecting badges, job titles, follower counts, awards, promotions. The world claps, friends nod approvingly, and your LinkedIn biography sparkles. Isn't this what success is supposed to feel like? Yet beneath the glitter, something feels off, a vague sense of hollowness, a suspicion that all this power might not be the same thing as genuine purpose. Status, power, and metrics, they sell themselves as synonyms for meaning, but they're only stand-ins, shadows cast by something more substantial. The allure is powerful. Gain more followers and you'll be respected, earn a massive salary, and your life will automatically matter. This external chase is everywhere. You see it in top 30 under 30 lists, the relentless comparison on social media, and the obsession with personal brands. Each metric becomes a kind of permission slip, proof that you're enough, evidence that you're doing life right. But here's the contrast. Chasing external permission slips is like living on a diet of candy, sweet at first, but ultimately empty. You find yourself needing more and more just to feel the same high. It's an endless pursuit because there's always someone with more likes, more success, more purposeful content. Internal validation, on the other hand, doesn't glitter. There's no algorithm, no applause. It's what you feel when you close your eyes at night, a silent confidence that what you're doing matters, that it aligns with your deep values. even if no one else ever notices. The world rarely tells these stories, but listen to the small voices behind big achievements. There's the entrepreneur who sells her company and wakes up the next day feeling empty, unable to remember why she started in the first place. Or the influencer who hits 1 million subscribers and spirals, realizing the persona he crafted for fame doesn't fit the person he wants to be. High achievers, lauded and envied, confess in whispers that the outer prizes never quite fill the inner void. These stories aren't rare. They're just hidden beneath a culture that worships visible achievement while quietly avoiding questions of meaning. The truth is, most people's ambitions aren't truly their own. They're the product of expectation, algorithm, and the subtle pressure of comparison. We're told to want influence, recognition, mobility, but rarely asked, is this really what you want? Or is it what you think you're supposed to want to finally be worthy? So pause and probe. Are your ambitions authentic, or are they inherited scripts you've mistaken for dreams? Are you chasing power because you think it will buy you back a sense of purpose, or because it truly connects to your values? When you choose to pursue purpose over power, every step feels different. The applause may fade, but the satisfaction deepens. You trade a fragile, competitive self-worth for something rooted and real. It's time to ask yourself not just what you're chasing, but why. In this next section, we'll look at how to strip away illusions and embark on the tougher, more honest path, starting with a radical audit of your beliefs and values. Are you ready to get brutally honest with yourself? If you really want to know what's meaningful to you, it's time for the existential audit, a process that slices straight through self-help fluff and polite journaling. The world is full of surface-level prompts. What are you grateful for? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? These have their place, but when it comes to discovering your true compass, they're often just comfort disguised as progress. Real inquiry means confronting your life as it is, not as you wish it were. That means questioning every assumption, motive, and desire, no matter how uncomfortable it gets. Imagine standing in front of a brutal mirror. Are you willing to see the parts of yourself that don't fit your public persona? Can you admit which achievements you chase only to make someone else proud, or which dreams were never truly yours? Contrast that with the norm. Most people skim the surface, jotting down goals because a guru said it's important, or filling up journals with affirmations that never touch the raw doubts underneath. This is self-deception with good intentions. It keeps you moving, but on someone else's map. Radical self-honesty, though, hurts in the short term and heals in the long run. Begin with uncompromising questions. What activities leave me hollow, no matter how much success comes with them? Who am I performing for? And who would I be if no one was watching? When did I last feel truly alive, even if it was inconvenient or unprofitable? One powerful exercise is the obituary test. Write your own obituary, not the PR spin, but the honest account of how you actually lived, not what you wanted others to believe. Does it match the story you're chasing now? Another method, the no BS 5 whys. Take any goal or desire, career, relationship, prize, and ask yourself why 5 times, digging deeper with each answer. Don't stop at generic responses. Be relentless. You'll know you're close to your core when your answer makes you uncomfortable or feels risky to say out loud. These tools aren't for the faint-hearted. They burn away illusion, and what's left is often not pretty. Old wounds, persistent fears, misplaced loyalty, borrowed ambitions. But only with this kind of radical truth can you start building a life that actually matters to you. Anything less, and you're just rearranging someone else's furniture, wondering why it never feels like home. If you want meaning, start by stripping away everything that isn't yours. This existential audit is the ground zero for real transformation. Next, let's explore how to take the blank slate and instead of seeing it as a curse, use it as a launching pad for freedom and possibility. Are you ready to flip the void into opportunity? It's tempting to view meaninglessness as a curse, a formless emptiness pressing in, a haunting reminder that nothing is guaranteed and certainty is lost. Most recoil from the void, believing that if life isn't mapped in advance, purpose is forever out of reach. But what if this very emptiness, the blank page of your existence, isn't a threat, but an invitation? The absence of imposed structure can be a prison or a passport, and the difference is everything. Contrast the two mindsets. One clings to old answers, wounded by the loss of rituals and inherited goals, desperate for a storyline to follow. Meaninglessness feels suffocating, like being exiled from gravity itself. But the other radical approach is to meet the formless with curiosity. In the void, you're not held down by other people's definitions or invisible scripts. The so-called crisis becomes a liberation, a chance to ask, what if I get to choose? What if the burden of meaning is also the ultimate freedom? This mindset is what Zen calls beginner's mind. Not empty ignorance, but open possibility, unclouded by dogma or jaded disappointment. With beginner's mind, each day isn't another repetition, but a fresh chance to create, to experiment, to find significance in what you build, not what you inherit. The absence of structure unleashes creativity, possibility, and the raw materials for a life aligned to who you are, not who you were told to become. History is full of thinkers who refuse to see the world's ambiguity as just chaos. Kierkegaard stared straight at the absurdity of existence and claimed that we must leap into the unknown, defining ourselves not by certainty, but by our choices. Camus faced the blankness of an indifferent universe and insisted that, even though ultimate answers evade us, we can craft meaning through our rebellion, by living authentically, fully conscious of life's flux. The void is uncomfortable, but it's also pure potential, the one space where you can stop mimicking and start creating. Every tradition, philosophy, or movement that ever mattered began with someone staring at the abyss and refusing to be paralyzed by it. They saw that what once looked like ruin was actually the beginning of something fiercely new. So the next time meaninglessness stares back at you, try flipping the frame. Ask not why nothing lasts, but what you could build precisely because there are no more ready-made rules. With this shift, the void ceases to haunt, it starts to beckon. Now, with the void reframed as freedom, let's explore how to take the first steps in building meaning from scratch, through experimentation, value discovery, and active creation. Are you ready to become the author of your own story? Turning the void into opportunity demands more than inspiration. It takes deliberate action. If meaning isn't handed to you, you must craft it yourself. But how? Start by dismantling the old shortcut, adopting values just because they're trending, aesthetic, or handed down by influencers. Authenticity, growth, impact. These are powerful words, but without testing them in your own life, they're just borrowed banners flapping in someone else's wind. The first step is brute honesty. Write down the values that supposedly drive you. Now ask, were these chosen or inherited? Which ones actually resonate, and which ones simply make you look good online? Remember, borrowed values are hollow. They may earn approval, but they wither under pressure. Lived values, earned through experience, hold up even when no one else is watching. Now move to experimentation. Instead of waiting for clarity, treat your search for meaning like a series of purpose experiments. Pick one value, let's say service, and for 2 weeks, deliberately weave it into your daily choices. Volunteer for something uncomfortable. Help a friend without being asked. Notice how it affects your mood and identity. Does living this value light you up or leave you indifferent? If it sparks energy, lean in. If it feels false, discard it without guilt. Repeat the process with other possible values: creativity, honor, curiosity, resilience. This isn't about picking one and tattooing it on your life forever. It's about honest trial and error, testing, failing, rediscovering, and evolving. Purpose isn't a fixed destination. It's an ongoing practice, continually refined as you grow. Consider the story of a young designer who idolized success. She hustled for validation and peer approval, only to burn out. After a painful audit, she realized she truly valued adventure. She began seeking opportunities outside her comfort zone, traveling solo, learning new crafts, taking physical risks. The result? Energy returned. She stopped seeking applause and started seeking experience. And in that shift, her sense of meaning blossomed. Or the former finance professional who clung to prestige as his guiding light. It worked until work emptied him out. He launched a series of mini-experiments, teaching math in underprivileged schools, working with elder care, then starting a podcast about everyday kindness. Through this, he discovered he valued connection far more than status. His life became less glamorous, but exponentially more fulfilling. Here's the real contrast. A life built on borrowed values will always feel flimsy, easily shaken by struggle or the judgment of others. A life forged through purpose experiments is anti-fragile. It grows stronger with each risk, mistake, and discovery. The beauty of this approach is its openness. You don't have to get it right all at once. Meaning emerges through iteration, honesty, and willingness to start over. Each failed experiment sheds a borrowed story. Each success uncovers a true note. So pick a value, design a small experiment, and be willing to be surprised. Every meaningful life is a patchwork of such tests, crafted, not copied. Up next, let's discover why meaning doesn't materialize in isolation, and why your search will only truly deepen when you step from the solitary path into genuine community. Are you ready to find where your story meets others? Meaning-seeking is often sold as a solitary quest, a hero's journey through the wilderness of self-doubt and uncertainty. It sounds noble, but here's the hazard. If you go it alone for too long, you enter a dangerous territory of isolation. In the echo chamber of your own mind, doubts become amplified, cynicism can set in, and the world grows smaller, not bigger. You may even start to believe your questions or struggles are unique, that no one else could understand the weight of your search. Loneliness disguises itself as individuality, but over time, it suffocates possibility. Contrast that with the transformative power of finding kindred spirits. There is a profound difference between wrestling with meaning in private and engaging in honest conversations with those who are equally lost, curious, and open. Authentic community is not about clinging to people who echo your every opinion. It's about seeking out those who challenge you, hold space for your questions, and reveal new perspectives. When you share your experiments, failures, and discoveries, you create a network of mutual encouragement, and just as importantly, reality checks for your blind spots. You don't need a crowd. Sometimes, just one person who truly gets it is enough to shift your trajectory. Small circles foster vulnerability, forcing your values out of the abstract and into lived connection. Only there do ideas survive the fires of disagreement, humor, and shared struggle. The process can be uncomfortable, to risk being seen, to admit uncertainty, to welcome feedback instead of applause. But without that friction, your purpose remains theory, never fully breaking into the world. How do you find or create existential community in a world dripping with cynicism and shallow connection? Start by showing up. Join clubs, discussion groups, art collectives, or online spaces built on honest conversation, not just dopamine hits. Look for depth in unusual places. Volunteer projects, book clubs that tackle tough topics, or message boards focused on self-examination, not just sharing wins. Go first. Be the one to admit your confusion, share your purpose experiments, and ask messy, open-ended questions. Your vulnerability is the invitation for others to drop their masks too. Curate your input. Avoid echo chambers that only reinforce your existing beliefs. Seek out difference and friction. Allow yourself to be challenged and offer the same respect in return. A real community isn't free from friction. It's defined by the ability to move through discomfort towards something deeper. Yes, the risk of connection is real. Rejection, disagreement, even betrayal. But the bigger danger is the life half-lived, brilliant ideas never tested, values never shared, a story you write but never read aloud. So as your purpose evolves, let your circle evolve with it. Gift others the same grace you're learning to give yourself. If meaning is the question, connection is often the answer, or at least the amplifier that gives your answers strength. Finally, let's close by asking, how do you stay oriented as meaning itself keeps shifting and the journey never really ends? It's time to embrace the unending quest, where questioning becomes the most meaningful act of all. Are you prepared to keep moving forward, even when the answers remain uncertain? If you've made it this far, you already sense the truth that runs beneath every word of this video. Meaning isn't a destination, but a process, alive, shifting, and personal. The myth that purpose is something you finally arrive at is compelling but hollow. What we've explored together is the reality that meaning must be created, recreated, and sometimes even abandoned as you evolve. The static purpose fantasy promises an endpoint that never truly exists. One day, you'll arrive, and all your doubts will evaporate. But the real adventure, the far more rewarding one, is in staying open, curious, and adaptive as your context and yourself keep moving. Every time you strive for a single final answer, the perfect career, belief, or relationship, you risk becoming rigid, clinging to a story that no longer fits. Contrast that with the approach of perpetual questioning, daring to let old values go when they stop serving you, testing new ones even if they break from tradition or trend. Life's richness isn't found in certainty, but in the willingness to keep searching, to grow through discomfort, and to let your meaning deepen as your experiences expand. So where does this leave you if you're feeling lost right now? Start by rejecting the idea that lostness is failure. It's not a glitch in the system. It's a sign you're awake, aware, and refusing to settle for easy answers. Begin with an existential audit. Ask yourself those tough questions, not as a one-off, but as a practice. Choose a value and run a purpose experiment. Take a small risk on a new community or open up to someone about your uncertainty. If today you feel that the meaning has slipped away, remember that this is not the end, but another beginning. There is no single map, and that's exactly what grants you the freedom to draw your own. You are not broken for questioning. The ache, the confusion, the restless search, they are signals that you are deeply, vibrantly alive. Most people spend their whole lives anesthetized, scrolling past their own hunger for something real. If you're wrestling with these questions, you are already further along than you think. The world's meaning isn't fixed or handed down. It's up to you, not once, but every day, to create and recreate it, to challenge and revise it, to live in a way that matches your evolving truth. If you're lost, you're not alone and you're not stuck. You're a pioneer at the edge of your own story. So keep asking, keep seeking, and never apologize for your hunger to know what matters. That hunger isn't a flaw. It's the pulse of real, meaningful life. Where will your search take you next? And will you be brave enough to keep walking, even in the dark?